numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Time for another true tale from my adventures working in radio overseas. My buddy Dan Repko co-hosted the morning show on Moscow FM. Fellow American in Moscow. Great guy. He was getting married. And like any group of friends worth knowing, we had to throw him a proper bachelor party. Now, we started the night with a nice steak dinner. You know, steaks, beers, moved on to whiskey, cigars, the full ceremony. After that, we went to a bar owned by a mutual friend. Hung out there for a little while. And then, because it was a bachelor party, and we had standards to uphold, we went to the club that sponsored my Friday night show. I had messaged the owner ahead of time. We were treated like absolute royalty. We got free entrance when we got there, bottles of whiskey sent to the table, girls, the whole operation. Now, Repko was a fairly responsible guy. Yeah, morning show host. On air, 7 a.m. He did the math, said his goodbyes around 1 o'clock in the morning, went home like a functional adult. Good for Dan. I stayed because the owner showed up and we got to talking. Now, I should mention, Moscow is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week city. There is no last call in Moscow. There is no moment where the lights come up and somebody tells you to go home. Moscow simply does not do that. I rolled out of that club at about 8 a.m. My air shift starts at 11.
Good morning, everyone.
Be informed, entertained, amused, and offended every weekday from 11 to 3. Listen to Pit Stop with Pete Cato. Embrace the awesome. Pit Stop with Pete Cato.
So, it just, I arrived at the studio wearing what I had been wearing the night before. I was not sober. I was not close to sober. I was somewhere in the general vicinity of sober in the same way that a man, standing outside of a building is technically near the building. Now, in Russia, and as usual in a lot of European stations, there's a tradition called the handover. The incoming DJ comes into the studio 5 or 10 minutes before their on-air shift starts, sits down with the outgoing host and has a quick chat about what's coming up on the show. Very, very professional, very civilized. Vera, the other morning show host, took one look at me and suggested that I drink some water. Good advice. Solid advice. I took a large bottle of water and slammed the whole thing in one go. That was a mistake. Big mistake. The moment they cued the mics for our handover chat, it went sideways. Now, in Russia, burping is considered deeply offensive, a significant social transgression. I did not burp. I went considerably further than burping. Live on Russian radio, I threw up. Now, of course, my good friends at Roskomnadzor fined me 5,000 rubles, which would have been about $150 at the time. My boss paid it. He always paid it. But this time, he was laughing so hard when he called that I could barely understand what he was saying. Dan Repko went home at 1 a.m. like a responsible adult and hosted a perfectly fine morning show. I stayed at the club until 8 a.m., showed up at the studio still drunk, and threw up live on air in a country where just burping is highly offensive. Best bachelor party I ever attended.